حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulillah. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Thumma amma ba'd. Brothers and sisters in Islam, today is the 29th of January. And by this time of the year, the vast majority of people who made New Year's resolutions have failed to fulfill them. The majority of people who at the start of the year made a promise to themselves that they would change themselves in some fundamental way, most of them by now will have failed. This is what the research tells us. That regardless of the promise that you made to yourself at the start of the year, whether it was, I will go to the gym more often, or I will speak with my parents more often, or I will pray on time, or come to the masjid more often, most people by this point will have given up on that promise. And it's worth asking ourselves, why? Why is it so easy to give up on that resolution, to give up on that promise to yourself? And it's worth looking to what Allah tells us in the Quran. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change what is in themselves. Allah will not change the condition of a community, of a society, until each and every single one of its members change their own condition, change what is in themselves. Now this ayah, it tells us two very important things, but most of us only pay attention to the first point. And that first point, the first thing that the ayah tells us, is that we do indeed have a large degree of responsibility for ourselves, for our own actions. If we want to become different people, if we want to reform ourselves, if we want to better ourselves and better our society, that will not happen until we take the first step, until we take the initiative. So we are responsible for that change. It has to come from us. That is why on the day of judgment, Allah will not interrogate our parents or our spouse or our children or our siblings or our friends about us. He will ask us about us. So we are questioned about our own actions. No one else is questioned about our actions. So yes, we are responsible for ourselves. But the second lesson that we can draw from this ayah, which we often neglect, that we often forget, is that this change, it will not happen without the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That no matter how sincere our effort, no matter how rigorous our initiative, we will not succeed unless Allah permits it. So we have to take the first step. But whether or not that step takes us anywhere, that is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So He is involved in the process. He is an integral part of the process. And when you look at New Year's resolutions or the promises we make to ourselves, they are often framed in a way that leaves Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala out of the picture. So it's always, I will go to the gym more often. I will fix my relationship with my parents. I will pray on time. I will come to the masjid more often. Me. And so we think that we are in total control. We think that everything is up to us. That as so long as I take the initiative, I will fulfill my goal. So we subscribe complete power, complete self-sufficiency to ourselves. And ironically, the more that we convince ourselves that we are in total control, the more helpless that we feel. Because if something doesn't go our way, if we don't succeed in our mission, if we fail to get what we want, we think that failure is entirely our fault. Right? We think, if only I had done so or so, if I had come earlier or tried harder, I would have gotten this. And so we torture ourselves because we think that we were the ones in complete control. We never stop for a moment to consider. That our control is not absolute. We never stop to think about our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the master of all things, the decreer of all things. A man once came to the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, and he asked him, should I tie my camel to the tree, or should I leave my camel untied and put my trust in Allah? So trust that Allah will keep the camel in its place until I come back. And what was the Prophet's response? Immediately he identified the problem in the man's reasoning. He told him, no, you tie your camel to the tree and then you put your trust in Allah. You do what you can. You take that first step. And then once you've done that, then you leave the rest to Allah. Because we might tie the camel to the tree. We might lock our car before we go into the house. And then when we come back, the camel might still be gone. The car might still be gone. We did what we could, but it was Allah's will that what we did in this moment would not protect us. So we go to the supermarket and we don't say, I'm not going to wear my mask and Allah will protect me from the coronavirus. We put on our mask, we social distance, and then we leave the rest to Allah. And some of us, despite taking these precautions, we will still get sick. And we must accept that. And so this is what is meant when we say that we must take the initiative while accepting that the success of that initiative does not depend entirely on our ability. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is part of that process. And that will make the hardship, the inevitable hardship that comes our way, the moments that we fall short, that will make it easier to bear. And we'll more easily pick up ourselves. So long as we remember that Allah is there, that we are dependent upon Him, and that He hears us, that He is closer to us than our jugular vein. And so it is not so easy to slip into despair. And the truth is, we get too caught up on, it's the new year, so now is the time to change myself. We forget that we can change ourselves. We can change ourselves at any time. I'm reminded of a personal incident that happened to me a couple of years ago. I was coming back home on a 3-hour train ride. And in the last leg of the trip, when I switched trains, and the conductor came to me to ask for my money for my ticket, I realized that I didn't have any cash. And he said, you have to pay in cash. And I told him, I don't have any cash. And he told me, if you're not going to pay for your ticket, I need you to get off at the next stop. And it was late at night. I had no money. My phone was about to die. And I was feeling very distressed. And I knew if I got off at the next stop, it might be another few hours until the next train comes. And it was in this moment that a man came up to me. I didn't know who he was. He didn't know who I was. I've never seen him since. He came up to me and he took my hand and he put in my hand a $20 bill. And what did he tell me? He only told me two words. He told me, Merry Christmas. He told me, Merry Christmas. And then he walked away. And I still think about this incident, not just because of this random act of kindness from this stranger, but also because of how he framed it. He said Merry Christmas as though to imply that because it's Christmas time, we should try to be kinder to each other. We should try to be better to one another. And this is often how we think. We think, okay, I want to read more Quran, or I want to pray on time, or I want to break this terrible addiction that I have. I'll wait until New Year's and then I'll change myself. Or I'll wait until Ramadan and then I'll change myself. Or I'll wait until the first few days of Dhul Hijjah and then I'll change myself. And of course, these are blessed times, these are blessed occasions. If the time of Ramadan or Dhul Hijjah helps you become better, then alhamdulillah. We also have to realize that we don't have to wait until those moments. That in fact, New Year's can be every day if we want it to be. It can be yesterday, it can be today, it can be tomorrow. Every day is a new year. Every day is a new opportunity to make tawbah, to reconnect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to reform ourselves. So every day is a new opportunity. So we live our lives at the fullest when we treat every day as though it might be our last, and as though it might be the start of a new year. So every day is an opportunity, every day is a new year. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam, thumma ma ba'd. Brothers and sisters in Islam, we have been speaking so far about New Year's resolutions, about the conditions in which we can reform ourselves, in which we can change ourselves. As we look ahead to the rest of the year, one way that we can go about bettering ourselves and bettering our society is helping our brothers and sisters in need, here and abroad. And right now, especially, though you won't often hear about it in the news, the situation in Africa has gotten very, very dire. There is a crisis of clean water. There's simply no access there to sanitary water in many parts of the continent. According to some studies, more than 315,000 children die every year from a lack of clean water in Africa. Because sometimes drinking dirty water is worse than not drinking water at all. It causes all sorts of horrific diseases. And so 315,000 children per year, that is 3/4 of the number of people that have passed away from the coronavirus in the US since last year. And that's every year. So it is a very difficult situation. Now, Africa Relief is an organization that is building wells in Africa to provide clean water. These wells, each well can feed between 400 and 500 people. And if properly maintained, can last for more than 30 years. So each well, the number of people that each well is helping is uncountable. And we all know the story of the man who found a dog in the desert. And by an oasis, and the dog couldn't drink from the water. And so the man took his shoe and he scooped up the water and he fed it to the dog. And for this random act of kindness, the man was blessed with paradise. Jannah for giving water to this one stray dog in the middle of the desert. If that is the reward for this man, we can only imagine the reward for feeding one human being or 20 or 50 or 500. So inshallah, there are pamphlets in the back by the exit where you can pledge, or where one person or several people can pledge to build a well in Africa. Please, brothers and sisters, consider it. Think about what a blessed charity this is. It is a sadaqah jariyah, a running charity for hundreds of people who might otherwise never have access to clean water. So I ask Allah to make us from those who are able to change their own condition, and to make us a community that is able to change its own condition. I ask Allah to gather us together in the hereafter as He has gathered us together today. اللهم ادخلنا جنته ونجنا من النار. اللهم ادخلنا جنته ونجنا من النار. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا واسرافنا في امرنا وثبت اقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك قريب مجيب الدعوات. عباد الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله يذكركم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. وأقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.